Kimberly Ledbetter, aka Mona Lisa, born November 20th, 1979. In the 90s, hip-hop and R&B was at a very different place than it is right now for many reasons, specifically on the female side. Back then, you had to have a lot work in your favor in order to be put in position to become popular. Nowadays, with connection to the world being at your fingertips, all it takes is a creative way to showcase your attributes and popularity can come to you. That or having some it about you and someone somewhere will put enough money behind how you're viewed by the public and you're in the door. No talent necessary. Of course, there are talented artists that do deserve the notoriety they're given, and at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is did you accomplish what you set out to or not. They call the 90s the golden era of hip-hop and R&B because of how much talent came up in that time. Seemingly every other month, there was a new artist being brought to the stage that had talent, it, and whatever else that sent them on their way to the legends of the game fans look up to now in their older age. It was the most competitive era for both male and female artists, and for the ladies a completely different look where most of them were completely covered or gave you just enough to draw the eye. But today, if you aren't bent over or shaking something, pack it up and head home because talent is just about the last thing you need right now. I say that all to lay out what made a singer like Mona Lisa different. Although she was obviously beautiful, and soon as she sang, you knew she had real talent uncrafted by studio effects and label strategies, but a real appeal vocally, and if you ask me, she was seen as one of the more naturally talented vocalists of her time. Speaking of time, she was placed in an interesting one where talent was at its all-time high in R&B, and females had their strongest presence ever. Artists like Brandy, Aaliyah, Monica, Mary J. Blige, Toni Braxton, Mariah Carey, Whitney Houston, and Janet Jackson earlier, but still, Destiny's Child, Maya, and Kelly Price later on in the decade, and so much more of that era that competed to sharpen female R&B to the point there'll probably never come a time like the 90s. Mona Lisa came out right in the middle of it with her debut album 11/20/79 in 1996, her actual birth date, making her still 16 years old on its June release. A hectic time in life for her and family, where she was approaching the age they would have to make an important decision for her future. Become a music industry star and follow whatever plan a label lays out for your life basically, or the less risky traditional teen to young adult route of education first. She'd only released one album as she just disappeared from music altogether, randomly showing up here and there. She had the chance to be just as big as the names mentioned, but for these reasons, that isn't what history would have written. What happened? Let's talk about it. It's your boy JC, Stunted Growth Music. Let's get it, man. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. Mona Lisa was a singer, songwriter, actress, and model from South Carolina, soon moving to Yonkers, New York. Like most 90s kids, church was an every Sunday tradition, and the choir is where she honed her vocal skills. She began performing in talent shows to develop experience before she made an appearance on the Apollo at just 15 years old. She soon meets the CEO of Island Black Music, a subsidiary of Island Records, and sang the song His Eye is on the Sparrow for him, and was immediately signed to Island Records in '95. By the next year, 3 singles released, 2 from the album and Our Time to Shine featuring Lil' Kim for the Don't Be a Menace soundtrack, leading to her debut album Summer 1996. Stunt number 1, An Edge to Compete. Mona Lisa was really young when she came in the game, but that worked for her because her fans had the chance to grow with her and share in her development as her voice grew into adulthood on into her prime. Being advanced in her vocal ability was her biggest plus, and in that department she could hang with the best of them. But what those popular female R&B artists had at the time that she didn't was something about them that could make them stand out. In any form of entertainment, it should be expected that talent to perform in your arena is not the only ability that goes into making a star. Things like opportunity, timing, and an edge are just as important. Brandy's edge was obviously her vocal talent. She was gorgeous and had that girl next door, America's sweetheart charisma, and also music industry connections through her parents to showcase it. That led to television opportunities that all made her a bigger star. Aaliyah had that swagger and seductive intrigue about her. Monica was the street female perspective that was also attractive and made great relatable songs. Mariah had the pitch, Janet the dancer, and so on. As far as you want to go back, they all had that it edge they used to further their popularity. Lil' Kim came in and found a way to appeal to the guys and girls with her lyrics, look, and over-the-top sex appeal that could fit right into the cheat code females in today's music use. Mona Lisa was always fully clothed, she wasn't controversial, didn't have that seductive intrigue, and at the age she was and her family focused on her future outside of music, she shouldn't be expected to show skin to win. In that way, that worked against her. In an industry, you have to have some edge that enabled you to compete in such a competitive era. Stunt number 2, lacking the right label and promotion. What also separated those popular female artists of the 90s and Mona Lisa was she didn't get the label support like they did as far as promotion and putting her in the right positions to build her platform. Signed to Island Records, I don't think they ever made Mona Lisa a real priority, and maybe they didn't see the edge in her or the potential she could provide a significant return on investment. Either way, her debut single, Can't Be Wasting My Time, featuring Lost Boys, was a dope single that got her career off to a good start, leading into her album, which sold moderately, and the impact remained just the same, largely because the second single, You Said, didn't at all reach the impact of the first and was much more introspective and somber, speaking about her desire to have that father figure that said he'd never leave back in her life, that read the room of most 90s black households well, but wasn't the right mood to continue pushing an album to climb the charts. In my opinion, that was a poorly chosen single that set Mona Lisa back in the popularity race going on at the time. The single Just Wanna Please You came in '97 featuring The Lox that would have been a much better second single but wasn't promoted as it should either and quickly faded away. Soon after, her Island Records was absorbed by Island Def Jam, which meant a new home and a new chance to build rapport, but also unfamiliarity and a staff that had their own artists they wanted to push before Mona Lisa. She lightly released a single called Peach for her sophomore album, but that too received little promotion and failed to impact the charts. A sophomore album never came. Stunt number 3, just left the game. Then around '98, Mona Lisa just disappeared altogether for a while, and we'd later find out it was her parents that decided to remove her altogether from the music industry, partly because they didn't like her being so young and around the dangers a female faced in an industry like such, but more so because she, being 19-20 at the time and going into her young adult years, they wanted her to focus on her school and getting a solid education to fall back on, and she did just that. From '98 to 2007, she didn't release any solo music and only one feature on Cameron's song Girls in 2004. A few more songs were released here and there until 2012, along with her modeling and writing still, even dabbling in reggae music, but ever since, I'm assuming she grew long past the age trying to be an R&B star was behind her. With the education she sacrificed her music career for, I'm sure she did just fine. All in all, Mona Lisa was in a very competitive golden era for urban music, period. She found it hard to compete for these reasons, and eventually she gracefully bowed out the race, as she's allowed to, having accomplished a lot in the short 5-6 years she was at it. Salute, much respect. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth Music, and I'm out.